Bad orders that don't get you or others killed or in trouble are for ripe malicious compliance. And #X200B. During basic training for the Air Force, we had a temporary assistant T, never call them a junior T. We were going somewhere one day and we had just started marching out of our squadron. We came up on the exit, and instead of ordering us to turn left, he called out column right. So we turned right, which had us marching directly into a wall, where we stacked up like old comedy movie, marching in place. And #X200B. The T screamed at us, "What are you doing?" pointing at a random member of the flight. Name, why did you do this? And #X200B. Sir. You called column right. Sir. And #X200B. No, I didn't. And #X200B. And continued to yell at us. At no point did he tell us to stop, break formation and reform, pointing the way we had been going. So there we are marching in place, getting yelled at. And #X200B. Finally a senior T from another flight comes up, tells our T to stop yelling. Takes command of us. Halt, break, reform over there. And wait. And #X200B. He and the assistant T walk away. That was the last we saw of that T. Eventually another T came up to us, asked where we were going and took command and got us there. Over dinner we found out there 2 other flights behind us, several Ts and the squadron senior NCO. The reason we were left for 5 minutes getting yelled at, was because the Ts were all laughing too hard to properly fix the situation. The only reference our senior T made to the event, was to point to one of the members of the flight. If I ever give a boneheaded marching command, you have permission to speak up with a big loud "Sir?" Sir. Yes. Sir. We've had a doctor booked in by a local hospital for while he's on call over the weekends. His bedside manner must be lacking. If his guest manner is anything to go by. No apartment is good enough for him. It either smells of smoke, we're non-smoking so I have no idea where this keeps coming from, the bedroom is in the wrong part of the apartment, he's too close to the corridor. You name it. I've never known him to stay once without a numerous flurry of complaints. This weekend. Well, it takes the cake. We've given him a complimentary upgrade to the one apartment he seems to tolerate. Earlier in the day, before I came on shift, there's a complaint about cigarette butts on his balcony which got sorted by HK, and a damaged pan and knife. He comes to the desk in the evening, proceeds to tell me about all this again. You must have dodgy people staying here if they're doing that sort of thing. He has this idea in his head that the knife was thrown at the pan or something I really couldn't follow. Apparently the cigarette butts are back again. Not sure what I can do about people smoking in apartments above him, 5 floors of which aren't even run by the hotel, but okay dude. His sister was visiting him and seemed so embarrassed she couldn't look me in the eye. Tonight he's complaining about stomping from the room above. Apparently the whole building is swaying or some such. Well. If people are on the treadmill in the gym above the office it's like an earthquake, so I can kind of see that happening. I go up to the room and there are 4 large Polynesian guys there. They were playing some music but it was all harmless stuff, they're just huge guys. I told them that the guest below had complained and if they could please be mindful I'd appreciate it. But I obviously wasn't going down hard on them or anything, they're just as entitled to enjoy their stay. An hour later during my dinner break Mr. Grumpy calls again to complain about them. Dude, I'm not sure what you want me to do. And honestly, if you're going to complain about things multiple times per night every night of your stay, why do you even come back? Just stay at home and don't get out in the world. A call I had from my former job in collections for a U.S. auto finance company. /customer calls in /. Customer, I need to pay my car note now. Me. Reviews account / sir, I'm showing your vehicle is out for repossession. Before I can accept any payment, I do have to ask one question. Do you still have possession of the vehicle? Customer, yeah, the repo guy is here, I just need to make a payment. Me, sir, I cannot accept any payment if there is a repossession agent present. You have to surrender the vehicle and wait for us to update the account. Then you have to speak with our reinstatements department. Customer, that's not fair, I had an arrangement the repo man should not even be here. Me, sir, we have sent you multiple notices by mail and email. We called you several times a day about your vehicle. The last call you answered and hung up on us. And you broke the last arrangement you set with the previous representative. Customer, I told the rep last week I would pay my account in full. Me, sir, there are no notes on your account to support that. The last time we spoke with you was a month ago. Customer, I have been a customer for /________ years and I cannot believe you people would just steal someone's property. Me, sir, unfortunately you are required to surrender the vehicle. I'm unable to take any payment if there is a repossession agent present. Customer, whatever, I'm calling the Attorney General. Wait until he hears how you scammers are stealing people's property. // I called the repo agency afterwards to follow up on the account and they laughed as soon as I said his name. After the call, the customer had apparently tried to convince the repo guy that he had the wrong house. Before I begin I should state this was a few years ago and I'm a tiny woman. Back at this time I looked like a teenager, so I've always been mindful that I seem an easier target or easier to fool. I had seen a job interview for a small business looking for a secretary. No experience needed as they would provide on-the-job training, and as that's the kind of thing I was looking for I applied. I heard back quickly and was invited to an interview. When I arrived I was excited. It was a bit of a journey from my home, but it was in a beautiful old building on the third floor with a modern layout inside, though you could tell it was very new as it was bare bones and very little had been unpacked. Still though, if you have to work somewhere might as well be in a nice building, right? Anyway. The interview seemed normal. I only encountered female members of staff, and they were all warm and lovely. The woman interviewing me was amazing and even sat talking to me for a while after getting to know me. When I get home I wasn't in the door long before I got a phone call from them. I nailed the interview. Awesome, I thought, and I was offered the job. I was about to accept when I was told on the phone, okay, you'll come here tomorrow and we'll have the van drive you to where you'll be working. And I was like, what? Confused about what they meant. They then told me I'd be meeting with customers on their behalf and talking, selling stuff. I was not comfortable with this as it wasn't what I was interviewed for, but I gave them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they had a second position they thought I'd fit in better with. It wouldn't be that weird as a new company, and while not what I was comfortable with I should hear them out. So I asked more questions and the woman on the other end of the line is getting more snippy and tense. Gone was the nice friendly woman from earlier, and she would not reveal where I would be going or who I would be meeting. By this point plenty of red flags were going off, so I said no thanks to her offer. For anyone curious about what happened after, I reported this as it seemed very dodgy, but when they were checked in on the floor was no longer occupied by them. They'd apparently just rented it for a week and were gone. So to the people who interviewed me, let's not meet again. Edit, spelling. Little backstory. My school finished at 3:15 p.m. and work started at 4 p.m. I always try to get into work early, so my dad drives me from one side of town, where the school and my home is located, to the other, where work is located. So I always get to work around 3:35 p.m. dressed in uniform. It is also important to know that I have my learner's license and can't drive myself around yet legally. So this happened about 4 days ago. I was working at the checkouts at work when two people I recognized from a couple of my classes walked up to me. Classmate 1 equals CM1, classmate 2 equals CM2, me equals M. CM1, man, you got here quick. How did you do it? M, oh, I live close to school, Dad drives me down. CM2, why don't you just drive yourself in? M, I don't have my restricted license yet. CM1, just steal your mum's. M, oh, I can't. CM2, come on up, we know you're a goody two-shoes, but live a little. Why can't you take your mum's license? M, she doesn't need one. CM2, what do you mean she doesn't need one? Everyone needs a license these days. At this point I'm getting a little nervous. I'm about halfway through their items and they are pushing me into a corner, figuratively speaking. M, I don't think I even look like her. CM1, what do you mean think? At this point, another customer was walking down the aisle, so I decided to just be out with it before they could hear me. M, my mom died 12 years ago. Both classmates shut up at that, picked up their receipt and walked away. But even though they were trying to whisper, I still heard one of them say, "She made that real dark." How else was I supposed to end that conversation? Since high school I have had very vivid dreams, usually involving people coming to harm me, being in an incident moments before my death or me desperately trying, and failing, to save someone. The dreams are absolutely terrifying and I wake up from them sweating and have a really hard time falling asleep afterward, which leads me to spend the day utterly exhausted. These dreams happen at least once a week but have become more frequent when I am under stress or nervous about something. Whenever I talked to friends about it they said, yeah, I have nightmares, everyone has them, so I assumed it was normal. Earlier this week I had a nightmare so severe I literally woke up screaming and disturbed my neighbors to the point where they checked in on me. Yesterday I had an appointment with my doctor and asked him about it. He said those are called night terrors and they are not normal. I can give you some medication to help and we can follow up to see how effective it is. Last night was my first night on the new medication and I don't know if this is placebo effect but I had my best night's sleep ever. I cannot recall a time in my life when I woke up feeling this rested and refreshed. TL, Dr. Tifu, by not properly asking for help about my issue with nightmares so severe they had a negative effect on my life and it had an easy resolution. New Zealand has a very unique ecosystem. Like Australia, it split off from the great southern continent of Gondwana land millions of years ago, but unlike Australia it is not dominated by marsupials. Indeed, New Zealand has no native land mammals, only aquatic mammals like seals and 2 species of bat. Prior to the arrival of Polynesians in around 1300, and British colonization in the 1800s, the country was, and still largely is, dominated by bird life. When the British seriously began colonizing New Zealand, there was a desire to turn it into something of a hunter's playground full of big game. Today, this is certainly the case, with species of deer, pig, and wallaby being well established across the country. But another species was also introduced, the Canadian moose. 2 attempts were made to introduce the species in 1900, which is believed to have failed, and again in 1910. They were introduced to a region called Fiordland, which is a largely unpopulated and undeveloped mountainous region at the very southern tip of New Zealand. The second introduction, consisting of 4 bulls and 6 cows, was at least initially successful. The last proven sighting of a New Zealand moose was in 1952, confirmed by a photograph, over 40 years since the last introduction, which is why the introduction was deemed successful. Since 1952, no conclusive photographic evidence of a New Zealand moose has been presented, despite numerous trail camera efforts. On the other hand, non-photographic evidence of their continued existence in Fiordland is rather abundant. A relatively fresh moose antler was found in 1972. In 1995 a blurry possible moose was photographed by a trail camera. Hair collected in 2002 was confirmed by DNA to be moose hair, along with frequent signs of moose activity, bedding/broken branches/etc. The DNA evidence is strong, but it begs the question of how an animal as large as a moose has avoided detection in a region which is frequented by many hunters every year. If the New Zealand moose indeed still exists, it supports the idea that very large animals like the Tasmanian tiger can remain undetected for many decades despite inhabiting areas frequented by hunters and outdoorsmen. Source 1. Source 2. The one thing I hate about Karens is that they don't have a concept of off the clock. On a semi-regular basis, I will be at work shopping once I am done for the day. On these days I will bring a shirt with me and change so I am no longer in uniform while shopping. However, there are some great customers who just don't care I'm not in uniform and am pushing a cart full of stuff or carrying a basket and still ask for help. Now the majority of people are nice about it and so I don't mind helping them. However, occasionally I'll get someone who recognizes I am an employee and gets all offended that even though I am not wearing our shirt I did not jump to help them. Then gets in my business complaining about how disrespectful I am. To which I reply, I am clearly not on the clock, it is not my job to help you right now, and had you not been so rude I would have helped you. If you're having such a hard time, go to the register and the cashier will get someone to help you. This post will be short and sweet, mods please remove it if it doesn't fit the criteria. Today is my 18th birthday and I had been wanting a tattoo. I go to the parlor, the artist did a beautiful job by the way, and halfway through my ink job the ground shakes and in walks a very obese woman. No problem. The thing that made this post worthy was what she got. She gets inked, stands up and I see it. On her left hip is a tattoo of an enormously fat naked woman floating in space, surrounded by planets. A ham planet with a tattoo of a ham planet. That is all folks. I can go now, for I have seen it all. Several years ago I was working for a large health system and we were undergoing a complete overhaul of their medical records system and implementing electronic medical records and digital charting. As part of this process we needed to deploy over 1,000 computers to patient rooms and nurses' stations, and I was on the hardware implementation team. One day about midway through preparation and just 1 week before we were set to start rolling out wall-mounted computers and monitors on arms, a senior project manager invited me to start attending some meetings surrounding the deployment. At this point, I was just a ground pounder but I was pulled in because my boss had been fairly incompetent at his job, A whole different story, so they wanted me who knew more about the project, scope, etc. I remember walking into the meeting with some higher-ups, the senior project manager, and my boss, and they were going over the specs of each room setup and all of the equipment that was required to be put in place. Basically, each setup was to get a PC mounted on the wall, a monitor mounted on an articulating arm, keyboard, mouse, USB barcode scanner, for scanning bedside patient wristbands, and a USB Proxima or Fit badge reader so staff can log in and out seamlessly with SSO. They would run one 15-foot USB A to B from the PC to the monitor so that the peripherals could be plugged into the monitor. Keyboard and mouse were on a tray directly below the monitor, Fit badge reader was mounted in the top right corner of the keyboard, and barcode scanner had a bracket mount behind the monitor. I sat there for all of 10 seconds and thought about it, and then chimed up and asked how they would hook 4 USB devices to a monitor that only had 3 USB ports. Everyone's face got stark quiet and people looked confused but very panicked at the same time. Not one person in the room had thought of it before I brought it up, and there was only 1 week until mass deployments. I wish I had a camera in that moment. I can just picture everyone's panicked faces with me smiling in the corner at the camera, lol. Overall, that pretty much summed up my experience on that project, and I still laugh at that to this day. Needless to say, they then proceeded to order 1,000 USB hubs, which we ended up velcroing to that back of the monitor, a nice extra point of failure, but that's all they could get in a pinch. My boss eventually got fired before go live, and I left that job shortly after go live and moved on to better opportunities. Plenty of other stories from that place, but thought I'd share this one. So in Army ROTC, we do these labs where we simulate combat/other scenarios for training purposes. On this given day, we are practicing react to contact, and my group gets assigned to be the OP4, enemy, for this given rotation. My group is a team-sized element with 5 males including myself. A college senior tells us where to sit in the forest, and we prepare to fake ambush the incoming squad. It's drizzling rain, and after we set up our position, everyone starts digging into our MREs and waiting. The problem is that the squad we were supposed to ambush never came. I urged everyone to keep waiting in the forest because sometimes the squad the Pat's setting up takes a lot of time, but eventually, it became clear that nobody was coming. At this point, I realized that we had something good going for us. You see, these labs are mandatory training, and us contracted cadets get paid by the month, as well as tuition. So I just told everyone in the group to stay put as it was the last order we received. My ulterior motive was to get some rest time and finish our MREs all while getting paid and following orders. Everyone else wanted to sit and wait, too. Mind you, I was not the group leader, so everything I said was just a suggestion. We sit and wait for the next hour. This gave all of us enough time to finish our MREs without having to rush. They don't give you free time on these days to eat. Then, we pick up from our position to find the college senior that placed us there. Eventually, we find him, and it takes him less than a second before his face is bright red with embarrassment. You see, since he was in charge of placing us and forgot that we were there, he could get a slap on the wrist for forgetting about us and leaving us there. "Oh my God, guys," he says in a hushed tone. "Don't tell anyone about this and I'll owe you one. In fact, drinks are on me after this lab." I don't drink, so I couldn't tell you if he followed through on that promise, but he was definitely grateful we didn't mention it to Kadri. This actually did happen today. So, I've been packing to move this week and things are running pretty smoothly. I figure I'm basically a packing pro by now because I've moved so much in the last few years, so I start doing my regular plan, which is to fit big stuff in big boxes and then small stuff in small boxes. You know, like any packing pro would do. However, this is where the packing pro part breaks down. I'm in my bedroom looking around at all of these tiny boxes and feeling bad for the movers, who I didn't want to make go up and down stairs like 20 times with all of these boxes. Plus, it's getting really hard to figure out how to stack them around the room, because there's so many of them. You see, when moving I keep the tiny boxes all by themselves, and then carry about 5 at a time. It usually obscures my vision and I drop something. I know, it's so convenient. But while I am pondering in my bedroom this evening, I have the most incredible thought. Instead of making the movers do that, what if I can put the tiny boxes inside the larger boxes? It turns out this is how everyone does this except me. I don't know why it never occurred to me to do this, and why I never noticed that's what everyone else does. I just texted my brother with this realization and he said, "Oh yeah, I remember you doing that." Apparently my family never thought to say anything. DL, Doctor, I'm 25 and I never realized that most people put tiny boxes of things inside larger boxes of things. Disclaimer, I've never hired professional movers before, so I've never put them through this. However, I now owe my friends and family sincere apologies for carrying tiny boxes for me every time I moved. At least I can spare the movers this pain. An older man came up to the register and I scanned all of his items. I asked him if he had a membership, and he thought someone he knows might, so we try their number. It doesn't work, so I ask what their last name is so that I can look it up. He spells it out and I find someone with the correct last name. I say, is it under first name /? He says, yes, that's my daughter. But she won't be using it anytime soon. This seems like he opening this for a conversation. I say, why's that? He says, don't you recognize her name? I look again. No. He says, oh, I thought everyone in town / heard. She and others / was killed by her husband last Thursday. He says all of this very matter-of-factly. I'm in shock. I say something along the lines of that's horrible. I'm so sorry. I don't know what to say after that. He leaves. Later I realize that I actually have met the girl before. I'll admit I went home and cried. Definitely not the average thing posted on this sub, but months later and this experience is engraved into my brain. So, this was pretty much the end of the relationship with me and my now fat ex-boyfriend. We ended things, mostly, because he was prioritizing his friends over me and even our household, and his friends weren't exactly the best influences. This is an example that belongs here. I had moved out but was trying to make things work. Kids will do that. He had his own place, I had mine. He had some new friends he was making and he was telling me about them. One specific friend I'll call Super Ham. He met her as a friend of a friend kind of thing. He decided he wanted me to meet her, so he had us both come over for dinner one night. So, a few things I found out about that friend over the course of the night. She's a proud fat activist and she certainly looks the part, had to be 300 pounds at about 5 feet 7 inches. She's on disability because she can barely walk. I suspect this is due to the extreme weight she has to carry around on those legs. She would get out of breath just walking down the stairs, out of the apartment. Walking all the way from the apartment to the car, about 30 feet, left her wheezing and gasping for breath. And, yes, since we were eating dinner with her, she ate a plenty. Boyfriend made homemade chicken noodle soup and she gulped down her bowl. Then she had seconds and then she complained that soup is never really that filling and she needs something solid to add to her meal, so she dumps a bunch of Ritz crackers, one whole line from the box, into the third bowl of soup she's eating. Fat ex-boyfriend had just cleaned out his fireplace and he bought graham crackers, chocolate and marshmallows for s'mores afterwards. He wanted an excuse to put a fire in the fireplace. I had 2 of them and I was good. Super Ham? Nope. She wound up gorging herself on several. I'm not sure exactly how many she had because when I left, she was still eating them. The entire package of chocolate would have been enough to make 12 s'mores and she devoured the whole rest of it before the next day. The marshmallows and graham crackers were both half empty by that time, too. Fat ex-boyfriend later told me she didn't like me. Why? Because I was engaged in disordered eating. I had 1 bowl of soup. And she didn't like me talking about getting into shape, going to the gym, losing weight and all that. She told him I was going to be anorexic if I didn't get out of the diet mindset. I just need to stop talking about that because it's insulting to her. Eventually, conflicts like this seemed to keep coming up between me and his new friends, which, in the end, is what ultimately finished things with us. But, seriously, people, if someone ever tells you that they're a fat activist, turn around and run away. The good news is, they probably won't be able to chase you. Me and brother share a bedroom. We each have our own stand-up fans. Sometimes when my brother turns off his fan it'll blow the circuit and it'll have to be manually reset it before anything will turn on in the room. If you've never blown a circuit before, you can hear it when it happens. There's a loud popping noise and the test/reset buttons on the outlet will have to be pressed. The first time this happens, I show him what happened and how to fix it. No big deal. Second time, I don't sweat it. Third time, I'm upset and confront him about it. The fourth dang time it happens is when the revenge starts. I started to reset the outlet and unplug his fan. The outlet is behind a big-ass dresser that we share. He's a clumsy guy, so even though it's easy to move the dresser, he kind of struggles with it. First night of revenge. I'm almost asleep when I hear him come in. He lays on his bed and reaches over to turn on his fan. Nothing. He turns the dial a few more times. Nothing. Sucks his teeth and mutters something like he's mad as he gets up to troubleshoot the problem. I hear him say WTF, who unplugged this, as he fights with the dresser. Minutes go by, along with a bunch of grunts and sighs. He eventually has to turn on the ceiling light, which I take advantage of by yelling at him that I'm trying to sleep. Finally he gets it plugged in and the dresser moved back. I fall asleep thinking he got the point I was trying to get across. Wrong. He does this at least 3 more times. So I repeated the process each time. Reset the outlet, unplug his fan, listen to him struggle. He now resets it himself. Had a lady come up and grab a card and tell me someone took her card from outside the restroom. And she said it with such a light tone like haha someone just took my empty cart. Not exactly in that way but that's how it sounded to me. So I just shook my head and gave a little laugh and suddenly she's like it's not funny at all. And takes a new card and stomps off. Okay, I'm sorry someone took your empty cart but here's another. Get on with your day Karen and stop sharing your complaints with every poor retail worker that has no choice but to listen to your shoot and pretend to have sympathy every time without fail. Half the time I have to take a guess at how I'm supposed to respond to these people and it's honestly a shot in the dark. Carl comes up to me and tells me something in a deadpan tone that I was supposed to laugh at then gets offended when I mistook him as being serious. Oops. We're there to work. We're there to provide a service. And we're expected to always be smiling and polite. Oh, I'm so sorry the kid in electronics took 5 minutes to look for something in the back room after you demanded he go check in the back after he told you it was out of stock. Oh, you had to wait 2 minutes longer than usual to check out? That's so terrible. Oh, I'm so sorry you decided to come purchase topsoil with 15 minutes left till closing and now have to walk 40 miles just to get to the garden center cause all our other entrances are closed for the night. Oh haha. You just printed this 100 bill in your basement? Haven't heard that one before. It's emotionally and mentally exhausting having to act the sycophant for you Karen. So much so that sometimes we miss our cues on which response you're looking for. I've been enjoying this sub during lockdown, sometimes reading it and sometimes listening to it on a YouTube channel. It was my late mom's birthday yesterday, may she rest in peace. She died in 1998, and I remembered this story she told, and thought, you know, I could give something back to this community by sharing it. It didn't actually occur in the business in question, but I hope it more or less fits this sub. When my mom was not long married, perhaps in the 1940s or 50s, she was at home one morning when the phone rang. My mom answered the phone as she taught us to answer it, by stating the phone number and saying, "Who's calling, please?" The caller, a posh and angry-sounding woman, gave her name and, unasked, her address, in a very well-heeled part of the city. And the conversation continued something like this. Caller, your man has not arrived yet. It's not good enough. When will he get here? Mom, I'm sorry, I don't understand. Caller, oh, for pity's sake, girl. The decorator. He was supposed to be here half an hour ago. Mom, I'm sorry, you must have the wrong number. This is a private home. What number did you call? Caller, don't ask me impertinent questions. I know very well that is. Name of house decorating company /. Stop stalling, you stupid girl, and just tell me when he will get here. Or send someone else at once. Mom, I'm sorry but this really is. Caller, I'm sitting here with my covers on. Mom, then I hope they keep you warm. And Mom hung up. Rest in peace, Mom. This happened tonight and it all seems so weird to me. I was the closing mod and a call came into place an order a mere 30 minutes before closing. After they took about 10 minutes to order they passed the phone around the loud room, the guy finally comes to pick it up about 40 minutes later thus 20 minutes after we closed. Now, these people hadn't paid yet, so the food wasn't even theirs, yet this simpleton proceeds to pound on the window for the next 15 to 20 minutes as we actively ignored him. I didn't want to confront him because I knew for a fact he'd just fuss at me and not act reasonably. I'm only at the job for another month so I don't care enough to deal with this shoot. I never really participated in what went on and she always seemed to like me but I just feel so bad for her. Our class was awful. They saw her as weak and took advantage immediately. It got progressively worse over the 2 years we had her, from throwing things around the room to just ignoring and mocking everything she said. One day a kid brought in a laser pointer and kept messing around with it discreetly. She accused one kid of having it and called the head of faculty and the kid had his bag searched. He didn't have it on him and so she sincerely apologized for her accusation and nothing more came of it but you could see the whole ordeal had upset her. Well, I doubt she'll see this but it was that kid who had the laser pointer, He bragged about slipping it into the bin before getting searched. I'm so sorry you had to suffer that. I'm so sorry about the Oreos and the feet stamping phase and that time they kept turning off the computer every time you left the room. I'm sorry about the birthday card and all those times your small mistakes were blown way out of proportion. You really tried your best and I don't know why they picked on you. Relentless annoyances that our other teachers didn't have to go through. I hope you're okay now and I wish I'd done more to show you how much your lessons helped me. We were old enough to have known better. I have no idea where she went, she just didn't return for our last year in GCSE. I hope she retired or found a new job someplace else. 14 years of teaching. I hope our class didn't make her think it was all a mistake. She did so much to help us and they never saw it. I'm so sorry. I work at a small-town coffee shop that has managed to adapt and stay busy during COVID-19 by utilizing a window for walk-up service. A regular problematic customer, let's call him TJ, is a typical middle-aged man riddled with toxic masculinity. He often makes female employees and customers uncomfortable with his comments. Lately he's been around a lot, being typical TJ. Today he came to our window and ordered a coffee. Cool, nothing out of the ordinary. A co-worker asked him if he would like to tip via our Square register. We normally don't verbally ask customers, but with the current pandemic we are not allowing customers to touch our iPad system. He proceeded to tell her to put 100, and reassured them he wanted to tip that much because he appreciates our hard work and effort and wants to chip in since our business has been a bit slower. Okay, I gave him that and almost have a change of heart about DJ. We both outwardly thank him and he goes on his way. I text my boss about this uncharacteristic interaction with TJ and through their end of the register system she was able to look at the transaction. They noticed that not only was the credit card he used not in his name, but in his boss's name, on their company card. Typical TJ. What a D-bag. This just happened a little bit ago. A guest pulled up to my gate and stated they were here to see their grandmother. I collected her name and the grandmother's name and looked for them in my log. I didn't see them listed, but being a community with 2 gatehouses it's not unusual for a resident to call the wrong gate to schedule a guest. I contacted the other gatehouse who also didn't have them listed. I explained to the guest that we didn't have them listed and she said she would call her grandma and have her call the back gate, where I was at. The resident called and I apologized for the issue and she said not to worry at all, it happens sometimes. While gathering her information, I'm about to ask the resident to spell her last name due to it being a long name when she laughingly said I better spell my last name to you, being it is almost half the alphabet and your last name you tend to offer to spell it. We laughed and I thanked her and got her granddaughter in without further delay. As I handed her the pass I stated she has a pretty good sense of humor about her last name. The granddaughter laughed and said yay she does, but honestly I've given up trying to learn to spell it. Finally a wholesome interaction, I love it. Smile. First time posting, currently a EMS dispatcher for a private ambulance company for 3 years now. We take some calls, however, they're usually seizures, psych, and falls. This one? Probably should have been psych, but unfortunately she wasn't the patient. This call happened in my first year, while I was pretty fresh and didn't understand the power of controlling a call. And #X200B. Me, okay, tell me exactly what happened. CLR, yeah, my mom fell in the other room, you know we have her locked in there right now, but yeah she fell and I think she may have hit her head. Me, okay, are you with her now? CLR, well, you see, she has dementia, and we live in a new home, so she is locked in there. You see, we can't have her wandering because of the bears that are around here. Me, have you gone to check on her yet? CLR, no, I can't unlock her door because she will get out and the bears will get her. Me, can you please go check on the patient? CLR, yeah, I think she might have hit her head, it sounded like she hit the end table, that's what woke me up, but even our big dog, insert large dog brand, is afraid to go outside because there are bears here at this new house. Please send the ambulance but make sure they get in and out quick because the bears will get them. Rinse and repeat for literally every one of the 10 questions involved with a fall. I was essentially working with a third-party caller as she flat out refused to unlock her mother from the room until the EMTs got there, let alone even go look at her. And #X200B. I kid you not, I heard way more about these bears than I ever got out of her regarding her fallen mother. While I may have wanted to bash my head into the desk repeatedly asking her the questions, now I can have a good belly laugh over it. From what I do remember though, Mom was transported alright, and no EMTs were mauled by the darn bears. It's absolutely not a surprise. 7. About half of our staff have to get sacked from our restaurant and I was only part-time. The business doesn't want to pay any more furlough than they have to. I started to get a little upset about the concept but couldn't understand why. I'd planned to quit, off to uni, but I had wanted to do it on my own terms and get to say my goodbyes to some of the staff who weren't horrible to me because I was a teenager. Even worse, I feel sick to my stomach about my colleagues. Some of these girls have been working here for years and they've got little children to look after. I know some of them won't find new jobs for a while, and as much as we joked about it, our colleagues weren't all that bad, except the one. There's always one. So yeah, I just wanted to get that out there. I can find another part-time job because this job isn't my income, but they've been scraping by for weeks and the system feels a little, very unfair to the service industry. I hope you're alright, guys. My girlfriend is going on a trip to visit her dad for Father's Day. It's the first time in quite a while that she is flying by herself, and is understandably pretty anxious about it, especially due to the current situation. She had a panic attack about it last night, and almost cancelled the trip, which was prompted by an email from the airline reminding her that she could cancel for free. She's feeling much better today, and seemed to be completely over the anxiety. We were having a conversation about why flying was actually quite safe, and she mentioned that her flight was almost full. I commented that full flights almost never crashed. She asked why, and I told her something that I thought to be true, which is that people often canceled trips last minute before flights that end in disasters, because of some kind of sixth sense. As soon as it left my mouth I knew I'd flipped up. Her face fell, and she sprinted into our bedroom and collapsed on the bed. I hurriedly Googled the statistics to see whether it was true, and realized that I had not, in fact, reported something I had read in an article or study, and had instead sent my girlfriend into a panic over a comment by a character in the stand. Luckily, as soon as we realized it was complete fiction we started laughing about it, and she's helping me write this post. Hopefully this experience will teach me to cite my sources. TLDR, I quoted a statistic about plane crashes that caused my girlfriend to have a panic attack, and then realized I had heard it in a conversation in the stand. I'm a server and an old beau of mine is a server. We recently reconnected, as friends OFC, and we were just updating each other on life. I was telling him about my server experiences. Now don't get me wrong, there was a good reason I broke it off with him, maybe it relates to this But after 3 years, I figured he'd mature and be less of a weirdo. Wrong. He admitted to me that he forces the hostesses at his work, and we know hostesses generally are teenagers and pushovers. I'd know, because Lord was it great to host for almost 2 years. To only seat his section with cute girls so he can take his shot. You know? While he's working. Basically, I left it at a yikes and just unedited him. So fellow servers, I got to ask. Do you guys also see this as inappropriate? Isn't this taking advantage of seating as well as objectifying customers? For me, it's already gross to be a server and have customers hit on me. I can only imagine it the other way around, especially feeling stuck with them and being boggled over it. There is an ulterior motive or you're overreacting. Yesterday really, I flipped up. I'm a white belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Our beginner and advanced class times were switched and I either completely forgot or I missed the class they announced it. I show up for my regular time only to find out I missed my class, but the professor insisted I train with the advanced students anyway to get some training in. This the part where I should have just gone home. I have never regretted anything more in my life. Not only could I not entirely grasp the lesson, I might as well have been a grappling dummy for my rolling partner. I feel like I wasted my partner's time because I couldn't put up a real fight. I also messed up something in my back near where my bottom right rib connects to my spine. It hurts to laugh, sit, breathe too deeply, or even lightly hug. If you ever watch MMA fights and think I could take him/her. No, you can't. Not unless you've been training for years to do so. And the cherry on top of the whole thing was someone took my sandals. Beaten, bruised, and without shoes. Somehow I'm going to try and make it through tomorrow's class. Universe help me. TL, Doctor, don't attend an advanced class if you're not ready. There is a lot of debate, rightfully, on the reliability of witness testimony, and this seems like an interesting branch of that tree. So, what are your views on the reliability of the lack of witnesses being considered suspicious? This can probably be split into sections in which either a specific person/people don't come forward as a witness. For example, the disappearance of Brianne Woolgram / at 19 years old, she vanished while striving to pick up a friend. Last seen in the company of 3 unidentified women, she disappeared with her car later found abandoned. Many suspect these women, if they were innocent wouldn't they have come forward as witnesses? Taken from. Or having no witnesses in general. Death of Alicia Hummel, taken from excellent write-up. She was found dead after a fishing trip in the Missouri River, being discovered by park rangers. Police consider it suspicious that no one reported being near the crime scene, as it would normally be busy considering the weather was nice. In both cases, there could be a range of reasons for someone not coming forward despite being innocent, not knowing that the crime took place, not being local, etc. But the case hinges on whether you believe this to be likely. I would love it if you could mention a case in which the lack of witnesses is considered to be a key piece of evidence, or at least suspicious. Do you agree with the weight given to this kind of evidence? To what extent do you believe it is possible for these witnesses to just not hear about the crime, hence not connect the dots? This was back when I, 23F, was in 2nd grade. I moved to a new school and I was fitting in pretty well, except for one bully who would call me fat every day. I was a good student and this bully was the problem child in class. So one day he had done his daily duty of calling me fat, so when he got up from his chair to get something and he was getting ready to sit back down, I pulled his chair from under him. He knew it was me and tried telling on me to the teacher. But I told the teacher it wasn't me and she believed me since I've never created trouble before. He got in trouble for disrupting the class and was given a detention during recess. He never called me fat again after that day. Post I'm referring to. After reading that post, which I'm sure many of you unfortunately have read, I felt very queasy and passed out for 3 seconds. I'm not good with blood and my imagination plus ability to form pictures mentally are apparently very good, which was just long enough for me to fall and bump my head on the side of the table, which was fortunately baby-proof. Although I now have a blistering headache and a fear of toothbrushes, shaving and bathroom amenities in general, I sure am glad my aunt and her baby came to live with us, because if not, that table corner probably would have taken me out, though maybe that wouldn't have been so bad considering I now have to live with the mental image of a cut-up tongue in my brain. DL, Doctor, I read a horrific and graphically detailed story about the dangers of brushing your tongue, fell and hit my head. Bartender at a local pizza joint. My buddy came in after a long day dealing with his 2 sick little girls. He tells me a story from today about the littlest. She's screaming for him from the bathroom. She states she's been waiting for 60 years for him. All she wanted was a cheese pizza from our place. Since they were sick, he went with something more appropriate for upset stomachs. But you can guarantee I got him a gift certificate for a cheese pizza for her when she's better. Nice to have good customers to even out the bad ones, lol. I worked in housekeeping in a hotel for months up until this past week. I'm now 35 weeks pregnant. I was scheduled to work 5+ days a week, with 20+ rooms to myself. I came into work recently, because I was on the schedule, and I could barely walk. I couldn't bend my back and my ankles were hugely swollen. I had been in L&D the night before to stop contractions. We didn't have many rooms, but 5 housekeepers in-house. Everyone was almost begging my manager to send me home, as we had too many housekeepers for the amount of rooms. Now, I'm huge at this point in pregnancy. I can't bend too far forward in general. My manager and I, discussed a couple weeks ago that she didn't want me cleaning bathtubs, so I was to have another housekeeper come clean my bathtubs. No biggie, I was fine with that. Well, the day before I quit I had went to find another HK to help with a bathtub. Said manager stopped us in the hall and asked what we were doing socializing on the clock. We explained that she was going to clean a bathtub for me and would go right back to her rooms. She yelled at me and said that if I can't do my job, I need to quit so that she can hire someone who's willing to work. I explained that it wasn't that I wasn't willing to work, rather that's one small task that I myself struggle with accomplishing. She didn't care. She continued yelling at me. Now, I've always hated being yelled at, so I spent the rest of my shift crying while cleaning my rooms. I got home from work, still crying. My boyfriend became extremely upset as I told him what had happened. We decided that it's in the best interest of our child that I just be done, as it's a lot of emotional trouble as well as physical. So I gave my manager her wish, and I went in and handed in my scrubs and quit. She seemed sympathetic, said she understood, was sad to see me go, and for me to come talk to her after I was released from maternity leave. Fast forward to today, another HK at said hotel was talking to this manager, while recording the conversation to send to me. She asked if I would be back after baby. The manager told her that I was lazy and a crybaby, so she would never consider hiring me back. I'm glad I quit. I feel like I dodged a bullet. I'm not sure that I'll ever be able to convince myself to work in housekeeping again. Strap in bois, this one I'm still baffled about. Alright, my girlfriend, 20F, and I, 21M, have been together for about a year or so. We spend almost every second together and she's rarely out of my sight. I'm a bit hearing impaired, so I need to see her lips to understand what she's saying. The other day we were in an Ocean State job lot and something super strange happened. She went out of sight while I tried out a chair, and when she came back I noticed she had a reddish-brown wet streak on the side of her dress. I took a leap of faith and touched the weird liquid so I could smell it. To my surprise, it was chili. Absolutely beside myself, I had her lead me down where she went exactly to try to place where this mysterious chili came from. Alas, there wasn't a single drop anywhere to be found. Not on the floor or any of the boxes. It's like it appeared out of thin air. Normally I'd attribute it to just dumb luck if we were somewhere that food would be, but Ocean State job lot? As weird as it was, we just brushed the incident off and went on our way, not really caring what happened. Things were fine until 3 to 5 days later. Yesterday, it happened again. This time we came back from transporting wildlife from a person's home to a vet to be treated since their mother tragically was hit by a car. They lived. We got home and I was finishing up putting a carport together for her mother when her mother spotted chili again. This time on the propane tank right next to where she was standing. Once seeing chili is weird, but twice unexplained, and I think something weird is going on. I looked online and no one had reported anything similar, so here I am. If you hear of anyone with mysterious chili appearing out or nowhere, let me know. TLDR, girlfriend got chili on herself in an Ocean State job lot with no evidence of any type of origin. Then it happened again 3 to 5 days later. Today, a man approached my counter. The transaction was already going pretty rough, his accent was very thick, and he was extremely indecisive, and ignored the answer to every question he asked. He kept insisting that I had to give him a good deal because his friends said I would. I guess he overestimated my patience. We're currently running a promotion, buy one, get up to 2 things half off. This apparently is not good enough for our lovely customers who refuse to stay home. I want this cross and chain, but I want the chain to be half off, and I want a discount. Me, the cross will be half off, and the discount will be either buy one, get one half off. No, you give me good price. Me, yes, I will, I'll give you the discount we're running. It's a better price than normal. Okay, and you give me discount. Me, yes, I will give you the discount we're running. Your total is 179.20. No, it needs to be 160. Change price. I want discount. Me, yes, this is the total with your discount. It comes to 179.20. 160. Me, I'm not understanding. I only have 160. You need to give me a discount. Me, you want me to change the price that corporate sells these items at? No, I want discount. Me, yes. Your total, with the discount, is 179.20. He paid with a couple $100 bills and left. So I work at a small office for a construction company. I have one coworker that is a grandma, and due to some parental issues, she is now taking care of her 2 youngest granddaughters, ages 7 and 8. She doesn't really have money, so she can't pay for a babysitter to watch the girls as she's working her 8 to 5 job. There is also the issue of COVID-19 right now, so having a stranger come into your house for long periods of time and be around kids is not really a good idea. Luckily, for her, the boss is okay with the girls being in the office as long as they don't bother anyone from working and be quiet. Over the time, I've slowly went from being grandma's co-worker to being a babysitter. This is how it starts. The girls did that at first, until one of their tablets broke down and stopped working. Then, they would fight over the other tablet and would whine and tattle to the closest adult there, usually me. So to stop this, I brought my tablet just so that they could watch Disney+. It worked, until my tablet ran out of power. Then, whoever had that tablet would start to come up to me and say I'm bored. They bring a backpack full of colors, coloring books, toys, etc., so I know that they aren't bored, they just want a tablet. I would then have to list off things for them to do, so that I could go back to work. After a while, I've learned how my coworker has been parenting them, and when the girls do something, then I just follow what my coworker tells them to do. For example, the girls have a towel and toothbrushes and toothpaste in the girls' bathroom. They are told that they have to wash their face, hands, and teeth after eating lunch. The girls would try to get away with this and go straight back to the tablets after eating, so I would have to remind them as to subtly tell them that they can't disobey their grandma. Now, I just have to raise an eyebrow and they listen. I really was fed up with all of this, especially when my coworker and I would usually be the only ones in the office, but I didn't really say anything because I know that my coworker can't really do anything to keep them home and they are kids who need to be loud and run around and all that. But, I finally realized how much my coworker was taking advantage of me when she said, "Wow. You're the cheapest babysitter. All I have to do is just pay for your lunch." She not only said this straight to my face, but also in front of the girls who now believe that I am their babysitter. Now if there are any problems, from an untied shoe to a fight over who can get what, the girls go to me first before their grandma. I am 14. I am a certified referee in my state. I know the rules as I've played by them my whole life along with taking the officiating classes. At our park district, no headers for ages below 11. But in U12, it is up to the referee's discretion. So if it's a small tap it's okay. That is exactly what happens. So the coach behind me screams at the top of his lungs there are no headers in U12 5 to 16 times. I ignore him. Though I could eject him. It was last game of the season and I didn't care. After a bit of yelling, he says fine, go duck yourself then, which I turn and tell at him for saying in front of you 11 kids. I wish I sent him away or ended the match. Sadly I didn't do much and my partner is a longtime referee, officiated my matches as I grew up, and he is deaf. So he has no idea what happened. The person who runs Park District in my area has been informed and is taking action. Happened yesterday but is an ongoing situation. I was walking to the local pharmacy when I see an older gentleman with a cane, struggling to carry some bags. I figured I'd ask if he needed help and he said yes. We were going along the same path, so figured I'd help him out. During our chat, my first mistake was I mentioned basically where I live, not super specific but he definitely knew the area. Then, when we get to his destination, he gives me his business card. Now folks, this is where it is super important to not do what I did. He asked for my phone number and I, feeling very uncomfortable and wanting to get out of there, immediately wrote it down. I did try and write it so perhaps he couldn't make out the numbers, but then he stood there and asked for clarification. He then also mentioned I didn't put my last name, and there you have it folks, my biggest mess up. Needless to say, this man now has my name, knows generally where I live and also has my phone number. And yes, he's been texting me consistently. I'm a youngish woman but definitely old enough to navigate this situation a lot better. If you are in this situation, please do not do what I did. Also, flip politeness. DL, doctor helped a guy with him bags, he then asked for phone number, stupidly gave him basically all my personal information and yeah, he's texting. A lot. Not actually today, etc. I worked for an armored car company named after a certain Irish police force for about 6 years in New England. It's a terrible job and if someone you love wants to join the industry, tell them to find any other way to make money, legal or not. In my early days, I was still out on routes picking up cash from stores. On this day I was the jumper, which was our super cool name for the dude who actually goes into the store to deliver money, pick it up, or both. Jumpers are always armed. So I go to one of my regular customers, a pharmacy chain store, on the corner of Happy and Healthy, in a pretty affluent suburb of Boston, and see one of the regular managers there. We pick up at this store 4 times a week, so I know the management crew pretty well. He sees me walk in the front door, waves me over and brings me into the manager's office. Like I said, we have a report. So we start talking and joking. We're shooting the shoot while we walk to the back office to get the money out of the safe. When we get to the back, there's a manager kneeling in front of the safe, getting deposits ready before they're put in the safe part of the safe, basically a drop box within the safe that can only be opened if both my key and the manager's key are inserted. His view of me is obstructed by the safe door. We get in and close the door. The manager who escorted me and calls to the other manager, jokingly, "Hey man, there's a guy with a gun here." I can't stress enough that, even if it's in poor taste, this was a normal joke we'd make. I put my hands up in the air, waving him off, and quip back with my usual, weirdly peppy "Nah, it's cool, I'm just here for the money." Not only was the other manager not in on the joke, but it turns out he was a recent implant from another store that had gotten robbed and had asked for a transfer. He's still kneeling in front of the safe, and still can't see me, but I suddenly see him tense up, and then his back start racking with quick, panicked breaths and sobs. I very suddenly realized that this guy wasn't one of the regulars, and just started apologizing profusely. The guy rightfully goes off on the manager and me, about how it's not funny, about how 2 months ago he thought he was going to die and how I brought all that back up for him. I leave on the brink of tears with that day's deposits. Almost $800 in cash. In the suburbs, people tend to use credit cards a lot more than cash at major stores. Needless to say, I stopped making the joke afterwards. And #X200B. DL, doctor, I unwittingly trigger a person's, probably, PTSD by joking that I'm going to rob him at gunpoint. Not me, but witnessed my bar manager go through this. Customer, excuse me, I've been waiting ages and you served everyone except me. Bar manager, I'm sorry love, what do you want? C, I'm not your love. Stares. BM, I'm sorry, can I get you anything? C, I think it's awful how you ignore customers who have been waiting for so long. BM, I didn't realize you had been waiting so long, what can I get you? C, well, I think this is awful, 5 people must have come after me and been served. BM, I apologize again, I'll get you your drinks now, what would you like? C, for free? BM, sorry, I can't do them for free. C, why not? I've had to wait for so long, it's the least you can do. BM, I don't think it works like that, do you want any drinks or not? C, of course I do, why do you think I was waiting at the bar? But I don't think I should have to pay. BM, you can either buy a drink or stand away from the bar I'm afraid, that's all we can offer. C, fine. But I don't want you to serve me. BM, why not? C, because you're incompetent, you don't know what you're doing. BM, well everyone else here didn't serve you fast enough either, what difference does it make who pours your drinks? C, well I've just said, anyone but you. Now get somebody else. BM, well, the other staff are busy mixing drinks, so you'll have to wait if you want them. C, are you kidding? Flip you. BM, flip me? I'm sorry, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Commence ranting and shouting followed by the bouncer escorting her out. So me and my brother were walking our 2 dogs in a field where we usually walk them and went down to this small, shallow section of river where we usually let them swim. In the past couple of days it had been raining so the river bank had risen and sunk again, meaning that the clay and mud, whatever it was quite wet. My brother went down to the river bank first and I followed. We started walking along the river bank and then along this narrow section my brother sort of slipped but ended up completely fine and climbed over the dirt mound back onto the field. When I tried to walk across the same bit I started slip much faster and so I instinctively grabbed onto the nearest dirt mound so I wouldn't fall fully into the river. The dirt mound I grabbed onto was covered in stinging nettles so now my entire hand was stung and in so much pain causing me to let go. This made me slip down further so at this point my feet were fully submerged in the water. Luckily I managed to grab onto the grass on the dirt mound, however this time the dirt mound started to move. This entire 1mx1m dirt mound fell off and rolled into the river splashing me in river water, which wasn't very pleasant. My hand still stings as I'm writing this, 1 hour later, and fortunately my dogs were already on the field and so didn't get injured in any way. DL, doctor, by walking right along the river bank I got covered in river water and my hand is covered in stings from stinging nettles. So this technically hasn't evolved into a tifu just yet as I'm just now experiencing the brownie kicking in as I'm typing this. But I have a bad and pretty clear idea of what's to come. A few days ago my friend called me up higher than I've ever heard him and of course I wanted a piece of whatever he was smoking. Turns out he was eating dab brownies, and who doesn't like a good brownie? I ended up buying a couple of these things and after my first full one I just laughed for an hour and then knocked out for 10+ hours and still felt high. I tried half of one and got blasted. Again, I fell asleep from being too high after a few hours. Today I woke up thinking I'd enjoy a nice after breakfast brownie since it's Saturday and I'd have the day to myself. 5 minutes after I ate the brownie my mom texts me and reminded me that I had made plans to come over today to help her with a few errands. We're off to a good start and I just told her I didn't get much sleep yesterday but I'm starting to feel the laughs and cheesing from being high and the more I try not to laugh or blush the worse it gets. This is gonna be an awkward few hours. How do I get out of this? Help. DL, doctor, I'm feeling the effects of the strongest pot brownies I've ever had and feel amazingly bad that I'm at my mom's house starting to trip balls. Our prison system is a joke. It's mismanaged, notoriously corrupt, and resoundingly ineffective, and it's never going to change because prison officials are never going to allow outside oversight of what goes on inside. It's no longer an objective to rehabilitate prisoners. Now prisons are just warehouses for criminals, the mentally ill, and the innocent. It's hard to fight for reform because no one really knows what happens beyond the visiting rooms, and prison administrators have every intention of keeping it that way. Even when the occasional television crew or local politician is given a tour, it's usually a highly orchestrated, sanitized version of reality. That's where Prison Writers comes in. We provide a platform to hear all the stories from within the walls of prison. We expose the corruption, violence, struggles with re-entry, the daily survival of an inmate, and much more. From heartbreaking and emotional stories to humorous and outrageous stories, every story helps us better understand what truly goes on in prison. Their story needs to be heard, and we are here to deliver a platform the inmates need. Head over to Prison Writers to learn about the broken injustices that make up our incarceration system and how we could fix them.